Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. This is Reverend Benita Weathers. It's really good to be back in the place. So I was out over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, um, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, May 27th, my husband and I celebrated 30 years of marriage. Can you believe that? 30 years. I took those couple of days off just for us to kind of get away for a little brief trip and to celebrate, because that's something to celebrate about. So, and then the following last Monday, I had planned to be back, but I ended up getting sick and I just couldn't do it. So I just decided to rest instead. No apologies. So here I am back tonight for Mind the Mental Monday. I always kind of miss it when I'm away from it for a couple of weeks. And so it's really good to be back. And thank you all, as always, for tuning in. I appreciate all of you, whether you're tuning in live or whether you are tuning in later on YouTube or any of these platforms, Instagram or Facebook. Um, I really appreciate it. And thanks to those who contacted me and actually missed missed me last week. So that's always heartening to hear that someone was like, "Hey, I missed, I missed you. Where, what happened?" Um, so thanks for all that you do. Thank you for just always commenting and all the things that you do that keeps me encouraged to continue to do Mind the Mental Monday. So how are you? How are you? How are you tonight? How have things been for you over the last couple of weeks since the last Mind the Mental Monday? Are you continuing to monitor your thoughts, monitor, your thinking? Are you continuing to watch how you're thinking and what you're thinking, when you're thinking it? Are you continuing to take care of yourself, of your whole self? Right? Mind, body, and spirit. We're made up of all of those components, and every one of them is as important as the other. So, a lot of times we focus mainly on the physical, but our mental and our spiritual are equally as important because they all work together as one. It is what keeps us whole. So, I hope that you have worked on something in your mind, body, and spirit over these last couple of weeks that we haven't done Mind the Mental Monday, and I pray that you will continue to do so. So tonight we are going to talk about a topic that, let me tell you how this topic came about. So I told you that 2 weeks ago, my husband and I celebrated 30 years of marriage. And um, during that time, we were out to dinner on our anniversary, and my husband and I were just talking, and I was really just sort of talking about like our goals and kind of where we see ourselves in the next 5 years or so. And I think asked the question, so what are we going to do? Or what's going to happen with us what are we going to do over the next 30 years? 30 years is probably too far ahead to think about, but we can think about what our goals are over the next year, over the next 3 years, over the next 5 years. And so we were sort of talking about, just goals that we have as a couple, and then also goals that we have as individuals. And I sort of, was talking a lot about, what my goals are. And then I started talking about some of my apprehensions around my goals. And I started talking about what I'm not or what I'm not doing and all these things. And he was really just ministering to me, pouring into me. because we all need that, and even though I do mind the Mental Monday, and even though one of the reasons I'm really talking about this too is, many of you know that I wrote a book called The Scream Within, a mental health and clergy marriages journey of a pastor's spouse, which talks about just my experience and me as a pastor's wife, with a pastor who is at war with depression, and he has been here on Mind the Mental Monday with me and we've talked about that. But what I really want people to understand is that is not just a one-way street, and that there are, even though I have, not been sort of clinically diagnosed with depression, there are times where my thoughts, where that stinking thinking comes about. And my husband is actually the one who lifts me up, who encourages me, who helps me to see things in myself that I don't necessarily see. And I think that's important to understand that, even if when you're in a marriage or in any kind of relationship, and if one person seems to be dealing with, mental health kinds of challenges, that it works both ways in terms of the other person being that support and being that encouragement and being that sort of lifter of our heads, and to tap into that. And I always talk about it being intentional about having your village, finding your village. And sometimes your village might be one person. Your spouse can certainly be your part of your village. And he is um, definitely a big part of my village, because he's one of the few people that I can, who knows me and who I can really feel free to be me with, without, sort of any kind of, condemnation or judgment around it. I can really tell them, be honest about what some of my thoughts are without, being concerned about, being judged about it. And so at those times where I need to be poured into, I'm one who tries to do a lot of pouring into others. At the same rate, I need to be poured into as well. And he is one who pours into me. And I'm really grateful for that. So I really wanted to say that. But in our conversation, one of the things that he challenged me to do is to stop focusing so much on the knots, the NOTs, right? Stop focusing so much on what you're not, what you have not accomplished, what you have not, been able to complete, all those knots, because the NOTs tend to keep us tied up into KNOTs. And so as he was speaking, I started thinking about this topic of don't let your knots keep you in knots, right? Or even asking the question of yourself, are your knots keeping you in knots, KNOTS? Are they keeping you bound? Are they keeping you tied up? Are they keeping you from reaching the destination that you can be bound to reach? And so I really want us to focus on that tonight. Um, and so we're going to talk about a few different things. So, you know, where does this even come from? And asking yourself that question, are your knots, NOTS, keeping you tied up in knots, KNOTS? Um, so, I'm not where I thought I'd be in life right now. I'm not good enough for that promotion or for that job. I'm not as successful, as confident, as spiritual, as talented, as bold, as whatever, right, as I thought I would be by now. And I know that for me personally, I go through that a lot. Like, I think about 30 years ago where I thought I would be in my 50s, and I think, I felt like I thought at that time I saw myself at a much higher level than where I see myself, where I feel like I am today. And at the same time, whenever I'm somewhere and I'm speaking somewhere or doing a workshop or whatever the case might be where somebody reads my bio, I'm like, whoa, did I do that? It's it surprises even me because I don't often take the time to be just be grateful for, be present in a moment where I've done something that is good. And instead, I focus on so much more on like what I have not accomplished versus what I have accomplished. And I think that a lot of us probably do that. And but what happens when we do that, what happens when we focus on the knots is that one, we start comparing. We start comparing ourselves to other people. And we talked about this a lot. And I know that a lot of people have talked about comparison. Um, and it's okay to know have a goal for yourself, right? And see somebody else who is at the place where you feel like you want to be, who have accomplished that goal, and to be able to like reach out to that person and say, "Hey, you're where I want to be. Like, can we talk? Can I run some things on you? Can I talk through some things with you to see if I'm on the right track to get to the destination of where I'm supposed to be?" The danger comes in where you start viewing yourself as less than somebody else because of what somebody else has accomplished that you feel like you wanted to accomplish, but you have not accomplished yet. So that is the real danger in comparison because, again, we are not created to be somebody else. We are created intentionally to be the person that we are. We are intentionally created to be one of one. And that intentionality is what our Creator used to create us, to put in us what He wanted to put in us before we came to this earth, and who has put in us what we need to endure. Some of the things that we might have to endure, some of the strife, some of the hardships, some of the difficult times, some of the challenges that we might have to endure in this thing called life to get to the other side of that and to accomplish what we have been called to accomplish. And if one person accomplishes something in 10 years and it takes you 20, so what? So what? You accomplished the goal in the timing and in the season that was for you. So when you start thinking of your knots, not only do we start comparing ourselves to other people, but the other thing that we do is we start to minimize our own progress. And so as we're making progress, we're not even taking time to account for the progress that we've made. We haven't even stopped to take time to be grateful for the strides that we've made, no matter how little or how great we have, as long as we've made strides, as long as we have continued to put one foot in front of the other, we are making progress. But so often, as we are comparing ourselves and as we are looking at what we have not accomplished, we're looking at the 20 steps that we haven't taken yet without realizing that to get to 20 steps, you have to take one. You have to first take one to get to 20. And if you have taken that one step, you have made progress, and you should take time to be thankful and to be proud of yourself that you took the one step and not get caught up in what you have not. So instead of saying, well, it's going to take me 20 steps to get there, and I have not taken the 20, I have not taken 19. Change your focus and say, I've taken one step toward that goal. And then the next step, say, I've taken two steps toward that goal. Because what that is telling your mind is that you are accomplishing, you are moving forward, you are getting the job done. And when you complete the job, whether it is in 10 steps, 20 steps, 50 steps, 100 steps, when you get to the destination, you are still going to arrive there. Whether it is by plane, train, or automobile, you still going to get to the destination. Whether it's on bike, whatever the mode of transportation is that is going to get you to a destination, as long as you reach the destination, that is the point. Not so much how you get there, not so much the mode of transportation, how fast or slow that mode of transportation is, but that you get there sometime. That is the point. That is what is important. The other thing that we do to ourselves when we focus on our knots, and this is a big one that ties us up in knots, gets us bound, is that we start settling instead of striving. We put it in our minds what we are not, what we have not accomplished, and what that does is that just makes you quit. It just makes you stagnant. It just makes you stop in your tracks and not and decide, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere. I've only gotten one step ahead. I've only gotten two steps ahead. There's no way that 20 steps is so far ahead. You know what? I'm okay. I'm good just where I am. But God did not put you here just to be stagnant and basic. When he created you, he created a one of a kind model. And when something is one of a kind, that means it's special. It's different than that model that's just like any other old model, right? And so when you start settling instead of striving, God didn't put you here just to settle, just to get complacent, just to give up. No, he put you here as a rare gem to shine, to show the world who God is in you, to be a gift to the world. And now sometimes people not going to accept like your gift. Sometimes whatever you wrapped in, people are not going to accept it. And sometimes when that happens, it hurts. It hurts because we want to be viewed by everyone as the beautiful package with the big, beautiful bow that everybody wants to open that package. Oh, I want that one. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes your wrapping will never be good enough for some people. But does that really matter? Did they create you? Did they give you purpose? Think about that. Are they the ones who are sustaining you in this life? Are they feeding you? Are they clothing you? Are they doing anything for you? No, but your creator is the one who created you as the beautifully wrapped box with the beautiful bow and to be the beautiful one of a kind gem that you are. And so when you start changing that your thinking, you don't want to just settle. You want to give it your all to go to the next level because you know you've got something inside of you. You've got a strength inside of you. You've got something deep down that will allow you, that gives you the strength, the courage, the capacity to move forward regardless of what anybody says about you. You have the power. You have the strength. You have what it takes. And so don't harp so much on the knots because all they're doing is keeping you in knots, keeping you imprisoned, keeping you in chains, keeping you bound. And that is not who God created you to be. God created you to be free, to live a life of liberty in Him. And so when you start settling, when you find yourself just accepting the status quo for whatever it is, that is not going to help you to move ahead. And so not only do we lose sight, do we start settling instead of striving for what we were created to do, but then we even lose sight of what that even is. We lose, we start to lose sight of that vision that we were given of what our life would look like or what it could look like if we just kept going, if we just, as tired as we might be, kept going. The difference between people who advance and those who don't is persistence. Those who advance, even if they get pulled back, they're going to get back up, dust themselves off, and they're going to take them steps again. They might get pulled back 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 100 times. But they are not going to let that pullback stop them from making progress to get to the destination where they know they belong because they've seen the vision. The vision is clear for where they need to be, but vision is not enough. You need enactment to make vision happen. Just sitting around scrolling Instagram and Facebook and looking at what everybody else is doing, and I'm talking to me, y'all, is not going to help you reach the destination or the vision that you have for yourself. It's not enough. Allowing other people, their thoughts of you, their opinions of you, how they treat you to pull you back, and then you just decide to get stagnant and just stay pulled back in a pulled back state is not it's not going to get you where you need to go, and it's not honoring your creator. You're putting more emphasis on the ones or on the thing that was said or done to you that is pulling you back than on your creator who gives you the strength and the might to get up and keep moving forward. So we have to get in the mindset of who did my creator create me to be? Regardless of what anybody says, regardless of what anybody else does, regardless of even what I say about myself. Let me remember, let me be clear, I didn't create myself. God created me. And in his creation of me, he created me to bring light to this world. And in order to do that, I cannot bring light to this world if I allow myself to allow others to pull me back into darkness. I have to be the light, and I have to operate in the light, and I have to keep striving toward the light in order to accomplish that goal. So when we develop into that not mindset, where we start comparing ourselves, where we start minimizing our progress, where we start settling instead of striving, where we even lose sight of of our purpose, where we lose sight of our goals, in whatever season of life that we're in, we really start to pull that knot in the rope tighter and tighter and tighter to a point where it paralyzes us. It keeps us from being able to move in a forward motion. And so Proverbs 23:7 reminds us that as a person thinks, so are they, right? So your thinking is directly related to who you are and who you become and what you become. And a lot of times when we don't reach the goals that we have envisioned for ourselves, it is not anybody else pulling us back. It is not what anybody else has said about us. It is what we have said about ourselves. It is what we have allowed in our mindset. It is what we have allowed. And until we take accountability for ourselves, until we stop blaming, Bobby, Susie, and Joe and everybody else, and Mama, Daddy, and them, cousin and them, all of those in them's, until we stop focusing on them and put the focus here and put the accountability here, we will continue to allow our knots to tie us up in knots. So it starts from within. It starts with us. And if we constantly think of ourselves through the lens of what we are not, then what happens is we will actually live out those limitations. We will live out the limitations that we have spoken over ourselves rather than living out what God has said about us, that we are fearfully, and I say it over and over and over again, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Made in the image of God, a little lower than the angels. And because of that, we have the power and the might to do everything that we were placed on this earth to do. But we have to be the ones to do it. It has to be what we have put forth the action, the energy, the effort to do. And so where do these knots come from? Um, as we've said before, the mindset, the not mindset, comes from within, because when we compare ourselves to someone else and what somebody else has accomplished, that's not coming from them. That's coming from us. That's coming from inside of us, right? When we are insecure, insecurity doesn't come from what somebody else has put on us. Insecurity comes from what's inside of us. Insecurity comes from what we think of us, of ourselves. The fear of failure comes from us, doesn't come from outside of us. All of these things, past, and even when there are people who in the past have said things that hurt us, have said things that put us down, have said things that make us feel lesser than, even that really is coming from within, because it it's based on the amount of power that we give them. And when you give somebody else that kind of power over you, when you give some other spirit that kind of power over you, they're going to take full advantage of it. But that's on you. It's on you how you respond to it. It's on you to take it and either allow yourself to shrink and just be stagnant, or to take that same thing and say, okay, you said this, but I got you. Don't worry about that. I don't worry about it, because you just motivate me. That's one thing I also learned from my husband when when somebody says, says something about him, he takes that and he lets it be fuel. He lets it be motivation to go harder, to go higher, and to do better. And so we can take those stones that people throw at us and we can allow those stones, we can either allow those stones to crack us in the jaw, or we can let the stones pile up so that we can walk on top of it. It's just like that story about the horse that fell in the well. And they wanted to, I think I told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again because I like it. It's a good one, where the horse falls in the well. And so in order to the people think, okay, there's no way we're going to get this horse out of this well, so they just decide to bury the horse alive instead. And what do? They take shovels of dirt and just throw it in the well in an attempt to bury the horse. But what does the horse do? Rather than the horse allowing the dirt to bury it, every time the person shovels dirt on the horse just shakes the dirt off and uses it as a platform to stand tall. And so every time they threw dirt in that well, the horse just shook it off and got higher to a point where the horse was able to then get out of the well and run on and live its life. So whenever anybody in your life decides to throw dirt on you, don't make let the dirt bury you. Don't use the dirt as your grave, but shake that dirt off and let it become a platform for you to stand tall on and go live your life, reach your goals, and do what you were created to do. Don't ever let anybody bury you. And people will try it. They will try to bury you with their words. They will try to bury you by talking about you behind your back and all that kind of stuff. But don't let that bury you. Instead, use it as a way to let you stand taller and to go harder and to do the thing that you know that you were purposed to do, to live out that vision that you were given a long time ago. Keep moving. And so, how do we untie those knots, the KNOTS, that we have allowed to keep us bound? One way is to first, as always, we have to identify what the NOTs are that is keeping us in knots. What are those knots? What are those things that you are telling yourself that you're not or that you can't? What are those things? Be honest with yourself. Write them down. List them out. What are the I'm not statements that you say most often to yourself? Do this exercise. I'm not blank, fill in the blank. What is it that you keep telling yourself that you're not? And then once you've identified your knots, the next thing that you have to do is to reframe those knots into a positive. So ask yourself, first of all, is this really true? Is it really true? Right? And then once you have identified um, whether or not it's really true, uh, most of the time you're going to identify that it's not true. And so, for example, if you say to yourself, I'm not creative, rather than saying I'm not creative, then reframe that and say, I'm learning to express myself in new ways. Or if you say to yourself, I'm not successful, whatever successful means for you, because success, everybody has a different definition of success, right? But so if you're saying to yourself, I'm not successful, a way to reframe that is I'm taking small steps every day toward my goal. Because guess what? Small steps turn into distance. I mean, a turtle takes small steps, but they still make progress. So it is about reframing how you think about those knots. And then speak affirmations that are grounded in truth. So I am who God says I am, right? I'm growing even when it doesn't feel like it. You might not feel like you're growing. Growth requires sometimes pain. You've heard the term of growing pains. Like literally, um, babies, if you look at like infants, for example, and toddlers, one growing pain is when their teeth start to come in. It hurts. It hurts. But in order to go from milk, from just milk or pureed food to like meat, right? They have to go through the pain of teething and growing those teeth. That is a growing pain. It's a pain that is unavoidable. It's a pain that they must feel. But at the end of that pain, they're going to grow from milk to food, to hard food. And they're going to be able to then handle that hard food that will then help them to grow the rest of the way. And so I'm growing even when it doesn't feel like it. I'm growing even when it hurts, even when I'm in pain, even when it doesn't feel good. I am still growing. I am still moving forward. I am still moving upward. I am still growing and moving. I am worthy of joy, purpose, and grace. I am worthy of giving myself grace when I get to those places where I am telling myself what I'm not. When I get to that place where I'm focusing so much on the nots as opposed to what has happened, what I am accomplishing, the steps that I am taking, what I am doing to be more creative, what I am doing to be successful, the course I'm taking, the whatever it is that you're doing towards your goal, instead of focusing on, give yourself some grace that says, you know what? I may not be doing it as quickly as I want. I maybe didn't reach the goal by the age that I wanted to, but guess as I say all the time, you're still above ground. And while you're still above ground, you still got work to do. You still got work to do. All right? So let's get with it. And then be grateful. Practice being grateful for what you have been able to accomplish, being grateful for what you've been able to do, being able to just sit for a minute and take a time to look at what you've accomplished and be grateful for it. And sometimes, we might think that if we sort of focus on what we've done and, with the things that we have done and things that we have accomplished, that, we're putting too much focus on ourselves and that kind of thing. But no, you have taken the time to take at least one step toward a goal. You have taken the time, to allow yourself to learn something new. You have taken the time to stretch yourself, to allow yourself to do something uncomfortable that is going to get you to that next goal. Stop and take the time to smell the roses. Smell the roses while they're fresh, because when the roses die, the aroma is not so pleasant. So take the time to smell the roses while they're fresh. I like that. That just came to me. I like it. Smell the flowers while they're fresh, because at some point they're going to die and they're not going to smell good anymore. So smell them soon, sooner rather than later. Get around people who speak life. Earlier, I talked about how I came up with this topic tonight based on a discussion that I had with my husband where he was pouring life into me. Um, there are others in my life who I'm so grateful. I'm really grateful to have a tribe who always speaks life into me. people at my church, my family, friends. I have a lot of people who are willing to speak life to me, and I'm so grateful for all of them. I really and truly am grateful to have that. But intentionally get around people who speak life, not death. People who remind you of your progress, who will let you know that, listen, you've done this, this, and this. So, there are people that will just hyper focus on your shortcomings, what you're not doing and what you didn't do and what you can't do. You need new company. You need, and this is not okay. Let me put a caveat here. This is also, these people are not your amen corner, though. These are not people that are just going to be your yes people. These are not people that's just going to be, just telling you, oh, how great you are all the time. These are also people that are going to check you when you need to be checked. These are also people that are going to put you in your place when you need to be put in your place. Because let's be real, all of us need to be checked from time and time again, and we need to check our own selves. And so be okay with being checked. But this is a group of people that when they're checking you, they're going to check you in love. They're going to check you because they see something in you. They see greatness in you and they want to see you pull that greatness out. So they're not going to let you just walk around raggedy. They're going to tell you when you raggedy. They're going to tell you when you're, well, we don't, nobody wear, most people don't wear slips anymore. I was going to say, they're going to tell you when your slip is hanging. They're going to tell you when your crown is crooked. Sometimes they're not even going to tell you. They're just going to come up and straighten it up for you. Sometimes they just going to come and tuck that tag that's sticking out the back. They're just going to come and tuck it in for you and give you that little pat. You know how you tuck the tag, somebody tag and you just kind of give them a little pat when you do it. It's like, I don't know why we do that, but just to make sure that it's actually tucked in. But get around that group of people that means that wants to see you succeed. And then surrender your timeline. Sometimes we put ourselves on this timeline of, oh, I've got to be, married by this age, and I got to have a child by this age, and I've got to have my business started by this age, and I got to do this by that time, and this by that, and it's like we put all of these timelines in our minds, where when we just allow ourselves to go with God, literally, let God direct our path and follow where He's taken us. Those the doors that need to open will open. The ones that need to close will close. The windows that need to open will open. The ones that need to close will close. And then there is no ceiling. People say the sky is the limit. Ain't no limit. Ain't no limit. You keep moving. I know I'm using incorrect grammar, y'all. Well, those of you who are English teachers, forgive me. But sometimes you just gotta say ain't, because it just, saying it the proper way just doesn't give it the same punch. Ain't no limit, all right? The sky is not even the limit. Anybody who has been in an airplane knows that. When we're on this earth and we look up, we see the sky and that looks like a limit. But if you get in an airplane, you're gonna go up above the clouds. If you get in a rocket ship, you're gonna go even past that. So we know that there really isn't it's what we have before us is limitless. While we're here, we have to make the most of this limitless time that we have. Because one day we're not going to be here. One day we're going to leave this earth. And that's a fact. And what are we going to leave for the next generation? What are we going to, what seeds are we sowing now that we might not even see, but it's going to reap a harvest for the next generation. So those are things to think about and reasons to not let our knots keep us in knots. All right? So Um, let's do a quick exercise, and this is something you can do on your own. Think of one knot that's been that's just on repeat in your mind. Think of what that is. All right, you got it? Did you think of it? What is that one knot? And repeat after me. I release the lie that I'm not, and you fill in that blank with the knot that you filled in. I release the lie that I'm not. I release the lie that I'm not successful. I release the lie that I'm not good enough. I release the lie that I'm not ever going to reach the goals that I've set for myself. I release the lie that I'm not blank. What is it? And I embrace the truth that I am becoming who I am created to be. That's the truth that I create. Michelle Obama wrote a book called Becoming. And I think that that title is so wonderful because we are always becoming. We are all works in progress, always. And we will be works in progress until we leave this earth. And that's a fact. And so we can embrace the truth that I'm becoming who I'm created to be. So there's the exercise. Take a deep breath. Now say, I release the lie that I'm not, whatever your knot is. And here's how we're untying the knot. I embrace the truth that I am becoming who I was created to be. And let that sink in and hold it close to your heart and repeat it as often as you need to and get it in your spirit. Don't worry about what you're not. Focus on who you are. And however many steps it takes you to continue becoming, to reach a goal, because that's just one goal. You may have several destinations that you're going to reach. As you're taking those steps forward, you might have to get off at a rest stop. But it's just a rest stop. When you're taking a road trip, a long road trip, and you pull off at a rest stop, it's not meant for you to stay there. It's not meant for you. Now, a truck driver, sometimes they may have to, or even others, sometimes, if they can't afford to stay in a hotel or something, they may have to pull off and sleep in their car overnight, but it's not meant for you to live there. It is meant for you to refresh, to replenish, so that you can continue the trip, so that ultimately you can safely reach your destination. That is what life is, my friends. It is a journey that is going to be filled. So you're gonna run into some potholes. You're gonna run into some traffic sometimes. Sometimes you're gonna run into some rainstorms. Sometimes it's going to be some snowstorms that you need a whole shovel to shovel yourself out of some stuff. In the end, don't let any of those things stop you from becoming, from making progress, from untying those knots and freeing yourself so that you can take the trip and you can finish the journey. All right. So I hope that this segment of Mind the Mental Monday has been helpful for you. I hope that if you have identified some knots that have been keeping you tied up in knots, that you have learned some strategies that can help you to untie those KNOTSs, to free you from the NOTSs, and to go from I'm not to I embrace who I am. And not only that, I embrace who I am becoming, because you're going to be becoming as long as you live. And as long as you live, live. All right. Thank you all for tuning in to Mind the Mental Monday. And Lord willing and the creek don't rise. I'll see you next Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on Instagram Live, Facebook Live. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, it is just at Benita Weathers. I am Benita Weathers on all the platforms. So go there, share this with someone that you know has been telling themselves what they're not. Share this. I want you to commit to share this um, with at least one other person who's not familiar with Mind the Mental Monday. Share Mind the Mental Monday. Let them know that this resource exists. Um, I am also a life coach, and so those of you who might be interested in just getting maybe some having some company along the ride with you as you're becoming, to hold you accountable and help you to be accountable to yourself to reach your goals, feel free to inbox me, reach out to me, and we can have a conversation about what your needs are. All right. So thank you again. Have a blessed night, and I'll see you next week.